Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dorfromantik. This is the second video of two that'll have a voiceover. At the time of recording this, I have not seen the feedback from the first video yet, but I sincerely hope that you were not put off by it and that you'll at least survive another video. I don't think I'll spoil too much by saying that this is going to be an awesome episode, and by the end of it, I think and hope you'll agree. The goal of today's episode is to try and complete at least a couple of the 6 missions we have that are close to completion. We start off with a railroad tile. We didn't have any of these at all last episode, so it's been a while. Here I am just quickly looking around, double checking that we don't have any other outlets for our railway at the moment, but also contemplating starting another railway line. I decided against it for unknown reasons, and if I could do it over, I wouldn't have placed it where I did. Moving on, we have a tile with some fields. I start looking around where we are, although I know we probably want to hook it up to our existing field to the west. We do find some options early on, but the pocket there was a 4 out of 6. If the extra field touching the grasslands had touched the house instead, I would probably have taken it. We've been looking for this one for a while too, and I was honestly close to grabbing this one, just because I really want to connect it. Luckily, my better judgment won out. Here I find the spot that I'll end up settling on. Now, nothing special about this one. We are adding a single tile to our mission and getting our perfect tile as well. I take a quick glance around before accepting this spot. Next up, we have a tile with 5 houses on it and a bit of forest. We have several options for this one. We do start off at the village. Here I'll be giving a lot of thought into the fact that for one of the missions we need to add exactly 6 houses, but this tile only contains 5. This means I need to keep in mind that I want options about where I can more or less easily add a tile with a single house on it in the near future to not end up being stuck with this quest forever. I do entertain the thought of this spot as well, but decide against it due to several factors. For one, it affects future tiles, and that is in almost all cases always a no-go for me. And second, it cancels the second village mission we have by adding too many houses. We would be adding 1 house too many if we placed it there. At this point I've noticed we have another tile coming up next, also with 5 houses, so at this point I start looking elsewhere for this tile. Since it does have a forest as well, I decide to see if it could be used better elsewhere. And I'm glad I did, because I quickly found this spot right here where I'm very happy with connecting the extra forest there and not opening up any further. I don't waste much time, and it also completes our first mission of the episode, one of our forest missions. Up next we have another tile with 5 houses on it. This one I like better for our village. I go back and forth quite a bit with this one, not really happy with any of the placements. I'm not happy about placing this one on the western edge of our village, since I'd very much like to add these tiles from the bottom up to eliminate risk of pockets. In the end, I decide on a spot to the north, as it eliminates the risk of future pockets and gives us a couple of better, but not exactly great options of adding a single house down the line. With this placement we also complete our first village mission and second overall of the episode. Our newest mission given to us is a river mission. Never super happy about these, but we'll make do. I quickly turn to the south, as we already have several river and ocean tiles down here with forest, and it edges us ever closer to our disconnected river area. Now we are granted a fairly simple tile with field on 2 sides and forest on 1 side. Not too sure what to do with this tile yet, I simply start looking around for a spot. Luckily I don't need to look long, and we find a nice spot in a pocket we've had for way too long. We are now presented with a mess of a tile. I remember when I was actually recording it, I said instantly that it was going to be difficult to find a spot for this one, and I instantly followed that up with a never mind. We do, however, decide to take a quick look around, of course. With the placement of this tile, it also completes our first fields mission and third overall, bringing us up to a total of 89 tiles. Up next, we have yet another housing tile with 5 houses. We know immediately that we don't want to connect it to our main village since it would ruin the mission. So at the moment we are really just searching for the best possible placement without it being connected to our city. After a long search, we do make it to our southern village, which is an obvious choice for this kind of tile. I am, however, not a fan of surrounding the tile to the northwest, but it can't be avoided with our current placement. One of them will have to be surrounded at some point. Ultimately, I end up not connecting it to the village at all because I want to keep it small in case we get a small village quest. In the end, I place it at a more or less random spot just to secure that perfect tile. And here we get our first railway mission in a long time. Again, not super stoked about these, but we'll make do. Having very few outlets for railway, it's not difficult to find a place for it. This tile is yet another tile that we could have great potential. My mind is instantly reminded of the pocket we have in our forest, but it turns out to be a terrible spot. Only a 3 out of 6, so we search elsewhere. We are quickly rewarded with a nice spot that both yields a perfect tile and close off a section of the forest. Our next tile is a sharp turn railway tile. I do decide to look around and see if we can connect it to any of our water stations. Our railway options are, however, still limited, and therefore it quickly became a question of which of these 3 connections we'd settle on. The northern one ending up being the best option. It doesn't lead into any of the other lines, and a future railway doesn't need to have any special environment on it, just grassland. Up next we have a forest tile. Just like last episode, we check the pond in the middle, but we're still holding out for that perfect 6 out of 6 tile for that one, so we quickly move on. At this point, I'm considering this spot for a new forest. It's right in between the fields, but it already has quite a few forest tiles already, and this tile fits in quite nicely. I do, however, decide that we have absolutely nothing else going on in this southern region, so we'd have much more freedom in building another forest down here than in between the fields. So this is ultimately where I'll end up placing this tile. Cruising at a casual 90 tiles, we are presented with a simple tile with a single house and a field. I do take a quick look around here, but quickly remember that we still have a village mission left that's missing exactly 1 house. This is a simple tile, so it should be easy to at least find a place that matches 2 sides. However, I can't say no to this placement, and our village mission will have to wait. Next tile is an ocean tile with a single field and a couple of houses. These houses are not connected, so this could also be used in adding the one house, which is why I start looking around here. This is unfortunately not an option, as it's only 4 out of 6, and not only that, the 2 non-matching sides would affect future placements. Wanting to finish this village mission, I do decide to place this one on the northern end of the village. This placement is not great, but we finish our second village mission and our 4th overall, I believe, bringing us up to 93 tiles. Our next tile seems like a simple one with a couple of fields. And even though we have finished the fields mission, we still have one, so that's of course where we start. Unfortunately, it turns out that this tile might not be so easy to fit in over here, and I'm once again tempted by this terrible placement to connect up the 2 row of fields. Of course, I know I'd never hear the end of it from you guys, so I quickly dismissed that idea. At this point, I believe I'm saying that I really want to keep an eye out for these 2 tiles so we can close this river quest off. At this point, I'm thinking we'll have to settle for a place like this where it only borders on 2 sides. Moving on, we get an ocean tile, or alternatively a completely blank tile. Given that we have several river missions, one of them being close to completion, that's where we are drawn to. And I like the idea of finally collecting these 2 rivers up. We are presented with yet another river mission. At this point I'm starting to think we have slightly too many of those, but there's not much we can do about it. Even if I wanted to, these missions are hard to cancel. This tile has 2 fields and a house on it, which makes it a difficult challenge to find anywhere it'll fit in. But we will certainly try. This spot was really close, and had those houses been aligned, I would have gladly taken it. I would also have liked to branch the river off in this direction here, but I did not like having either the house or the field next to our future river. In the end, I went with a safe bet and placed it where it doesn't bother anything or anyone. Up next, we have a tile full of houses with a couple of trees. I fairly quickly find this pocket here and decide I don't need to give it any more thought. Next tile is once again something that looks super useful. At this point I have in the back of my mind that I want to try and focus a bit on closing the river mission near our fields, and this looks like something that would work. At this point, given the fact that it is a river tile there, I would probably have accepted a 4 out of 6 had it not affected future tiles. So we continue our search. I honestly don't know why I don't check our forest area, but given that it has an ocean, that might be why. After finding this spot, however, I am glad that I didn't check. This is a great placement. We have another railway tile, which is an easy placement. We have the chance to lead the sharp turn away from other tiles, and we take it. And again, we are faced with something that could be a very promising tile, so we instantly go and check our biggest objective. Unfortunately, this is only a 4 out of 6 and therefore it has little interest. Same issue here, only 4 out of 6, so I quickly dismiss this idea as well. Our search does continue, only to find even more bad luck. I finally end up settling on a spot that at least completes our second forest mission of the episode and our 5th overall. We always like to see a water station, and we know exactly where to place it. We still don't have any particular reason to place it at the south, so we end up placing it to the north, getting us closer to completing that river mission. Up next, we have a tile that turned out to be quite difficult to find a place for. It's also a fairly small fields mission, and since we don't have any other fields, we are looking to cancel that mission if possible. I of course have to check to see if we can connect the fields, but unfortunately no such luck. I believe I have or will also notice our upcoming tile, which is very similar, and I'm trying to plan that to our advantage. At this point, I'm honestly just trying to determine the best of our bad options here. It seems like no matter how I twist and turn this tile, I won't find a spot that can match 3 out of 3 sides. I know that we possibly could find a better spot for it if we searched elsewhere, but we could also be stuck with this mission for a real long time if we don't cancel it straight away. It took us quite a while, but I finally decided that enough is enough. Up next, we have a very similar tile. Having spent a long time looking for a spot for the previous tile, I didn't particularly feel like spending a long time looking for a good spot for this one. In hindsight, this tile didn't have a quest. I might have valued the 3 fields here to our current fields mission, but I should have looked elsewhere for a better spot than the one I chose. This tile was a mess. It had a bit of everything, and I honestly had no idea where to start with this one, so I just started looking around. While we haven't found a decent spot yet, a tile such as this can be really difficult to find a spot for. Since it has a lot of different environments on it, I feel like there's really no place you shouldn't check, which is also what you'll see me doing. Plenty of spots with a lot of matching sides, just not all of them. I was very happy with finding this spot, and it just so happens that to be a 5 out of 6 that doesn't affect any future tiles. I happily take my 4 perfect tiles. Next tile is a simple one with just a couple of houses and a quest. It is a large quest, so there's really little choice as to where it needs to go. We need to connect it to our main city. Unfortunately, we don't really have a good spot for a tile with only 2 houses, so our options are limited. Here I'm contemplating placing it somewhere on the western edge of the village. I decide against it because I really would like to place these tiles from the bottom up. Also, I found a spot where I thought that our previous tile might fit, so I make use of that awesome undo button, but in the end it didn't yield any positive results. I finally settle on a spot more or less out of the way to the north. Our next tile consists of more housing. Since we just placed down a city mission, this is where we look first. I can quickly see that there's no great spot for this tile, and we start searching elsewhere, since I know we have at least a couple of places out there that has houses on 3 sides. And here we find one of them, and after a quick look around, this is where I decide to place it down. Nothing special about this, we secured a perfect tile, and I also wanted to lessen the houses scattered around our field. Now we get into a couple of river and ocean tiles. Since we know that we only need 2 more tiles for the river mission, that's where we go. I find a spot pretty quickly and I don't waste any time taking that spot. Next up is an ocean tile that has with some grassland. We'll be taking a quick look around. We really have plenty of options with a tile such as this, but I finally settle on a spot in the north. We have worked a lot on this area in the past couple of episodes and we can start reaping some perfects soon because of it. This placement also completes our 2nd river mission and our 6th overall mission of this episode. Our next ocean tile has a sort of an obvious spot for it just north of the tile we just placed, even though it would mean we'd have to find a river tile with a house if we want to continue the river further north. But at this point I'm no doubt sacrificing a bit of common sense to try and get us to 100 tiles. However, we still take a look around just to make sure we won't find a better spot. I do find a couple of nice spots here to the south, but they don't award any perfect tiles, and thus I discard those ideas. I honestly also like this spot right here, but it doesn't contribute to any of our goals at the moment. No perfects, and it doesn't add to the river missions we still have. And that's why we settle on a spot to the north. Up next we have another railroad tile. Not much thinking goes into this one, just plonk it down and move on. Next tile is a full one which includes some river, sharp turn with some fields which initially makes it look like a difficult tile. I start looking at random places to the north, but quickly realize it won't fit anywhere, so I go south. It's also around this time where I realize that our upcoming tile is the exact kind of tile we've been looking for this pond right here in the middle. I'm so glad I held out on the other options we were given. Realizing there's no good spot for this tile, I settle for the best of the bad options, hoping to fill the target tile of those two rivers with some ocean later on so I can continue the river here. And we already know where this one goes. It's a no-brainer. Love to see those kind of placements where you get maximum perfect tiles. Moving on, we get a completely blank tile. To my knowledge, we don't really have anywhere in mind that would benefit greatly from such a tile. We have a couple of options that'll fit 3 out of 3 sides, and that's ultimately what we'll find for this one too. Nothing special about this tile, honestly just looking around to see which area is most developed before plonking it down. There's no slowing down the river tiles, but at least we finally get one that could continue the river in the north. I don't waste too much time looking around, happy we are able to continue the river. Up next, we have a tile that I instantly hope will find some kind of placement at our big field. We know we have a lot of houses and grassland close by, so that's where we start looking. Unfortunately, it turns out that this tile might not be as great as I'd hoped, as it proves difficult to find anywhere it fits in. The composition seems to be just slightly off for this tile. And that's why you'll see me start looking elsewhere for this one. Not satisfied with anything we found at our field, we have to consider other options. I consider this spot for a short while, but decide to continue looking as this one doesn't yield a perfect tile quite yet. And since we've reached 100 tiles, I'm also interested in ending the episode on this super high note. I finally find this spot, which is at least 3 out of 3 sides. After a short look around the last bit of the map, this is ultimately the spot I land on. Nearing the end here, we get a large field with a bit of forest. We do have a lot of places around our field especially that has these kinds of elements. We find a spot pretty quickly, and seeing that it yields a perfect tile, I'm not going to argue. Next tile is very similar to some tiles we struggled with earlier, so I'm not exactly excited about this one. But the house makes quite the difference compared to the others, and I don't pass on this opportunity to push this tile out of my mind and move on. Up next, we have a nice and simple tile to finish off the episode. A couple of houses should be doable to find a nice spot for. No quest on it this time, so we are free to look around. This is a tile that's not going to be difficult to find a 3 out of 3 spot for, given that we can at least utilize the grasslands if everything else fails. What we are looking for is a possible pocket, or at least a 4 out of 4 somewhere, and we are still eager to keep us above 100 tiles as well. Not able to find anything better than 3 out of 3, I find a spot here where I can at least utilize the houses. Luckily, I spot this out of the corner of my eye, and I opt for this placement for the extra style points of not just ending the episode with 100 tiles, but 101. And so this marks the end of the episode. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you all thought about the last 2 episodes in the comments. Aside from the voiceover and the following frustration learning my audio was gone, these 2 episodes were extremely enjoyable for me. We completed so many quests, got very lucky with a lot of our tiles, able to fill in quite a few pockets. At the beginning of the last episode we started with 71 tiles, and over the course of these 2 episodes we've managed to grow our stack with 30 tiles. That is an amazing feat if you ask me. I would very much appreciate any feedback on these 2 videos. I'm especially interested in 2 things, namely if you like the voiceover and why or why not, and how you found the audio quality in these 2 videos compared to how it usually is. Is it better or is it worse? Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and to see you for the next one, where things will be back to normal. Until then, take care.